One of the common byproducts of oil and gas exploration and production is hydrogen sulfide, or H2S. Hydrogen sulfide is a poisonous gas and is also known as sour gas, swamp gas, and poison gas. Hydrogen sulfide is formed during the decomposition of organic matter and during certain chemical processes. Some areas you might encounter hydrogen sulfide during oil and gas operations are drilling operations, completion, servicing, workover, downhole maintenance, plug, and abandonment procedures. Many work areas containing hydrogen sulfide gas have been identified, but pockets of hydrogen sulfide can be anywhere. This course is designed to provide you with the skills to recognize the dangers of hydrogen sulfide and safety procedures for working around it. When the course is over, you should be able to recognize H2S physical and chemical properties, H2S effects on the body, recall H2S monitoring equipment information, and identify H2S exposure controls. You should also be able to select proper H2S exposure response. Remember, you should never enter an area known to contain hydrogen sulfide without proper training and authorization. Hydrogen sulfide is a very toxic invisible gas, slightly heavier than air. It tends to gather at ground level or in the lowest part of a structure. Hydrogen sulfide can gather in any low or enclosed area like gas venting systems, a mud system, cellars, pits, and tanks. Hydrogen sulfide has a foul, rotten egg odor. Hydrogen sulfide is very flammable and has a relatively wide flammability range, from 4.3 to 46% volume in air. When burned, hydrogen sulfide produces sulfur dioxide, which is another toxic gas. Hydrogen sulfide also reacts with steel to produce iron sulfide, which is also highly flammable. In addition to flammability, hydrogen sulfide is highly corrosive and can cause metal to become brittle. This can cause metal fatigue through hydrogen embrittlement or sulfide stress cracking. Because of the way hydrogen sulfide reacts with metal, special attention must be taken when choosing equipment if there's a reasonable chance hydrogen sulfide will be present at the worksite.
People are coming in sick. Something more needs to be done. And we're seeing sick people already, and we saw this with Exxon Valdez. We had 6,722 cases of upper respiratory illnesses. I'm still dealing with sick people 21 years later. 100% disabled. A lot of them have died. And I don't want to see that happen here. This is, just well known that oil vapors cause, respiratory problems, central nervous system problems, right down the line. And it's not just in humans. This knocked out harbor seals in Prince William Sound because they came up and they breathed the oil vapors. And when their carcasses were autopsied, their brains were fried from breathing the vapors that are out there. We knocked out over 20 whales from the same problem, narcotic effect of volatile organic carbon. And this is what EPA is now saying is at high levels, here.
So not only the people doing the cleanup, the fishermen out there right now, but the media that's covering this event, they should take heed to this.
The thing is that our bodies only have so many ways to say we're getting sick. And the symptoms for chemical-induced illnesses mimic colds and flu. So we had the Valdez crud in 1989. We had the Katrina crud. We had the 9/11 crud. Really the problem here is that we're talking about toxic exposure. If it's a cold and flu, you get over it when you go home. If it's not, I get people like now saying, I thought I had the Valdez crud in 1989. I didn't think I would have it for 14 years, 16 years, 21 years, dead. We want to make sure that it's safe to live here as well. I'm not seeing any precautions given the extent of what we're dealing with. Where are the health precautions commensurate with the risk? I'm not seeing it.
Well, thank you for being an advocate for these people here. We really appreciate it. You've seen it firsthand, the long-term effects, and we hope and pray that somebody steps up and does something to protect these people.
That somebody would be BP and President Obama, and they ought to step up now.
Okay, step up. This is a hazardous waste, and we need your help. Thank you.
Louisiana's Democratic U.S. Senator, the one you don't associate with a hooker scandal, responded to the huge BP oil spill just off the coast here in New Orleans with a call for the country to recommit, to double down and hold steady to oil drilling.
Our country, I mean, there is no question about that. We have to produce this oil at home unless we want to be completely reliant. We've got to investigate, find, clean up, and then do the research necessary so this will never happen again. And we must continue to go forward.
We have to continue to go forward, just as we've always done, just as we've done for decades, over and over and over and over again, with each successive oil spill, explosion, and fire. Prices paid in lives, in land, and in economies. And yet, at the same time, every president in the modern era has paid some amount of lip service to our country's dependency on oil and other fossil fuels. On January 29th, 1969, before I was born, 6 miles off the California coast, there was a blowout at a Union Oil Company drilling platform. Oil and natural gas gushed into the ocean for 11 and a half days. 200,000 gallons of crude covered 800 square miles, killing thousands of seabirds. 35 miles of California coastline were caked in tar. The next year, Earth Day was born out of the stomach-churning images from the Santa Barbara oil disaster. Never again would we take our environment for granted. Never again would we abuse it and put it all at such risk, right?
We can no longer afford to consider air and water common property, free to be abused by anyone without regard to the consequences. Instead, we should begin now to treat them as scarce resources, which we are no more free to contaminate than we are free to throw garbage into our neighbor's yard.
Being an oil-based nation wasn't just a problem for what it was doing to our land and our seas. It was also a huge national security liability.
A massive program must be initiated to increase energy supply, to cut demand and provide new standby emergency programs to achieve the independence we want by 1985. Increasing energy supplies is not enough. We must take additional steps to cut long-term consumption.
That was in 1975. Then December 15th, 1976 came, near Buzzards Bay in Massachusetts. The Argo Merchant broke apart southeast of Nantucket Island. It dumped 7.7 million gallons of fuel oil. Bad timing during the country's worst energy crisis.
The energy crisis has not yet overwhelmed us, but it will if we do not act quickly. We simply must balance our demand for energy with our rapidly shrinking resources.
Our resources were not limitless. We could no longer afford to treat them as such.
We will ensure that our people and our economy are never again held hostage by the whim of any country or cartel.
At this point, I have to wait for the giant riverboat to go by. They want to be on TV. Okay, I won't move to New Orleans. One more? No, that's it. President after president insisted that we would not be held hostage. We would be energy independent. Then on March 24th, 1989, the king of all oil disasters, at least so far, the Exxon Valdez colliding with an underwater reef. More than 11 million gallons of oil released into the Prince William Sound in Alaska. Fish, birds, otters, seals, all devastated. 1,300 miles of coastline covered in oil. It was a national man-made disaster and a national embarrassment, prompting President George H.W. Bush to say, quote, "We know now that protecting the environment is a global issue. The nations of the world must make common cause in defense of our environment. And I promise you this nation, the United States of America, will take the lead internationally." In June 8th, 1990, an explosion and fire on the Mega Borg released over 5 million gallons of oil off the coast of Galveston, Texas. On August 10th, 1993, 3 ships collide near Tampa, Florida. 336,000 gallons of oil spill into Tampa Bay. November 28th, 2000, an oil tanker loses power and runs